Out. All right, all right. This is, I don't even know. I always say this. I don't even know what installment this is now of Coach's Corner. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As always, this is a fellow PHC, someone from our own community who has taken our course. He's taken several courses, actually. Who is, I'm gonna let you give your own background here, David, but specifically, so it is a coach's corner because he's one of our graduates, but I want David to speak specifically to kind of what it's like to go through an internship here as a health coach and a little bit more about his experience at Simplex and kind of what he's learning. If you have questions along the way, oops, hold on, let me silence that. Sorry, I got to turn that off. Feel free to ask. I'll check it out in the Q&A and I will keep an eye on the chat. So David Tubbs, please give everybody your background story about kind of what led you into health coaching.
Okay. Well, from the age of about 25 to 40, I owned and operated my own martial arts school. After about 15 years of teaching people martial arts, I really needed a break. If you've ever taught anybody anything, after a while, you need to get away from it. So I had said to my wife, I come from a background of trucking. My father had a small trucking company. My father-in-law had a small trucking company. So trucking was always around. So when I sold my martial arts school, I thought I would do 6 months of trucking. I said to my wife, let's just do this for 6 months. I'm a Canadian, so I come from Canada. And I thought, let's just do 6 months of traveling through Canada and the United States, see the country, get paid for it. What better way to do this? Oh, that was 23 years ago. 6 months has not ended yet. But about 3, maybe 4 years ago, I started to gain weight and I was finding that even just going up any flight of stairs, I was huffing and puffing like crazy. Unfortunately, truck driving is an extremely sedentary job. So I decided I would start a gym and run. Now, I've always been great at being able to build cardio, when I decide I want to do that. So I started running, but I really wasn't losing any weight. So I knew nothing at that time. This is, like I said, 3, 4 years ago. I knew nothing about nutrition. So I thought, what is a nutritious breakfast? Well, that has got to be oatmeal, brown toast, and margarine, because you don't want butter stuff on there. And of course, that wasn't working. And then I seen an ad for Primal, and I'm not even 100% sure where I had seen it. I'm thinking probably Facebook, but I don't even know. So I thought, well, I'll take this course and see what I can learn about nutrition. And after the first chapter, or even the second, I realized I knew nothing about nutrition.
Yeah.
So that was a real eye-opener to me. And I just found myself completely absorbed by it. So, I had finished that. And I was only doing this for me. I really had no interest in being a health coach. I just wanted to learn for me only. But when I had got that done, and Primal started coming up with other courses. I thought, well, I'm going to do this course and this course. And I don't know how many courses Primal have, but I've done just about all of them. I think I haven't done the women's fitness and a couple of other ones, but I've done pretty much them all. And that's about 2.5 years ago. I decided, hey, I'm actually going to be a coach. I want to start coaching people because I would see people, and there's nothing worse when you're standing in a grocery line and you look at somebody behind you with what they have in their cart, and you want to turn to them and say, you're not really going to eat that, are you? Like, eat that to your kids? So
that goes over well.
Well, and sometimes you got to go, just none of your business, none of your business.
Right.
So then I started to do and master coach, and I really liked master coach. So we started our own business called Nutrition Trucker, and it was pretty much aimed at truck drivers because, like I said, it's an extremely sedentary job. Unfortunately, almost every truck stop in Canada, United States, all they sell is candy bars, potato chips, and pop or soda, depending on where you
Yep. Yep.
So you would try to tell people. So I've been trying to help other drivers you can cook in your truck. Everybody or almost everybody can cook in their truck if you have an inverter. So my wife and I tried to put some healthy recipes together, show people you can exercise. So when you're talking a truck, you're talking a half bath in a house. You know, if you got two and a half bathrooms, that small bathroom, that's about the room you have to work out if you want to work out on your truck. And there's a lot of people who are extremely self-conscious, or we do go into some areas you really don't want to be outside. You know, some people don't want to be outside for various reasons. So I've come up with some exercise programs too that people can do in a truck.
That's cool.
Well, you can close your curtains. You can, you know, turn the air conditioner up so you're in a completely climate controlled area. And we do cardio and resistance. And I do resistance with either dumbbells or resistance bands.
Love it.
Yeah. And then when I seen the opportunity to go to Simplex, I just thought, man, I got to do this.
Yeah. So you joined our very first cohort. So David and a few others, I see Natalie on here, but there's a few of you, I think they took 5 for the first one. They were our guinea pigs, and we're learning a lot here with this internship, to the point where they actually postponed the next cohort to now, and they're only taking 3 because they want to make sure that every intern is getting what they need out of it. And we're learning a lot this first time around. And people, please feel free to sort of ask some questions here. I've got one from Kent, but before I get into Kent's, would you share a little bit with me about what the process of applying for the internship was like? First, you applied with us, and then we said we prioritize. So Ken, I might as well answer Kent's question. He's asking, are we able to become an intern if we are only in the health and business course? So Simplex is prioritizing people that have the primary course, the human intestinal microbiome, and health coaching in a medical practice. Master coach is nice to have, actually. That's not the requirement, but at least those 3, because it really is what they are servicing around. They focus on insulin resistance. A big chunk of that is gut microbiome related, but they also have this huge clinical side. And so they really want health coaches to have a general understanding of what it's like to coach. So you need to have those 3. You don't have to have it to apply, but if you're accepted, you've got to be willing to take them. But I will say, we are prioritizing folks to send their way to interview who have already taken it. Okay. So that answers so you don't have to have them right now to apply. And we may get to the point that, you know, the people that already have it have already applied, have already been through, and now we're taking people that are just sort of willing to invest in it once they get the internship. We're just not quite there yet. So I know Michelle has applied because she's taken several of these. So she was immediately pushed through, and anybody else that sort of already had it, we're going to be sending them the link to apply as well. So that's answering that question. But other than sort of applying with us and us being like, who are we going to send Simplex's way? And you filled out Simplex's application. What was that process like in the interview? And what do you think they were looking for?
Well, they're looking for obviously flexible people. The lady's name just totally escapes me, but no. She contacted me and I did the first interview.
Lisbeth or Carrie?
Yes, that's right. Lisbeth. Yes. Her name was just gone. I met with her at first and she asked me not really what my qualifications were, because they knew all of that from there, but why I wanted to do it, what I was interested in doing. So I explained that I wanted to learn as much as I could about all of it. All of the health coaching, because they take you through the enrollment process, how to be a health coach, how to deal with people. And you were saying, Natalie, because I've only done the health coaching, so I really haven't done anything a lot more than that at this point. But I know there's enrollment and a few other areas where they were looking for health coaches to do. But so far, I started I believe it kicked off August 1st. I think it was odd because
sometime around there.
Yeah. And all I've done is health coach. So I haven't really done anything else. So I'm not really sure what those other parts are. But I had 2 meetings with Elizabeth, and then I had a meeting with 3 other ladies, the higher executives, I guess, so to speak, on a conference. and I talked to them for probably half an hour, 45 minutes. And I almost got an immediate response. When we had said goodbye, it was about 5 minutes later, I got a text message from Elizabeth saying, welcome aboard. So it was quick after that. So it was good. I was happy.
Yeah. So flexibility is big because they serve people from different places, but also they know that this is like an unpaid internship.
Yes.
And so they want to be respectful of your time and make sure that what time you have available is the time that they're working with. Some of the other areas, and Natalie's on, she might be able to kind of pipe in and talk a little bit about just through the chat, and I can read it for you, Natalie, if you want. But I know that some of them have sat and shadowed a couple of RDs. A couple of them have gone on and tried to kind of help with the scheduling and enrollment side. I know that there's a sort of marketing and kind of social media type segment too, in terms of the training and kind of what they take you through. But Carrie is she's sort of their director of partnerships. And so what she tried to put together was a pretty robust, like going through, spending a couple of months in certain areas of the business and learning all sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the hope there is that you're either hired as a health coach at some point, and I'll speak to that in a minute, or what you've done is you've pretty much learned how a company like Simplex, the size of Simplex, they're not enormous, but they're a bigger company. They've got multiple moving parts, how they sort of function their business, the various aspects of their business in terms of marketing, partnerships that they build, enrollment and scheduling, and how they get people in the door, what their programs actually look like. Maybe you can speak to that. But Simplex, their primary focus is around insulin resistance. Yes. Right? They focus on medical nutrition therapy. Their big ones are also gestational diabetes. We're doing this CGM beta program that I can speak to a little bit here. But why don't you speak a little bit about the types of people that you're talking to?
Mine are mainly diabetic, pre-diabetic. So definitely the insulin and glucose. And I totally agree with you that when I had started, sorry, somebody knocked something on the table. They asked me if I wanted to shadow the dietitians with the clients. So I did. I've done a lot of those. They ask you to do a few, but you can do as many as you want. So you can do them every day, which is great because now you're watching the dietitian with the client, and I've done the enrollment process. So the first meeting, I've done meetings where the client has been a client for 6 months or 8 months, so they're used to it. And it's really nice to watch the dietitians because we as health coaches, we can't tell people this is what you need to eat, this is what you need to take for supplements. So the first few are like, wow, I can't do that. So it's kind of interesting. And then after the client signs off, you can stay and talk to the dietitian. Matter of fact, they encourage you to talk to the dietitian not only as a work person, but as a client. They say, hey, if you want to you get a couple of free dietitian if you want to talk to her that way. So that was kind of really interesting. And the differences of being a health coach, of I have to kind of work you into doing, what I want you to do, where a dietitian just says, this is what you're going to do. So that was really interesting. But most of my clients, and I work with about 25 people. So it's a pretty big caseload. And the vast majority is insulin resistance, all to do with diabetes, high blood sugar. So it's pretty interesting. And some people, I have one lady in particular who she sends me stuff, and I deal with them on chat. So you don't really do Zoom. It's almost all done on chat.
Yeah.
I shouldn't even say almost. It is all done on chat. But I have some lady every day. I won't say her name, obviously, but every day she sends me messages that, oh, I got out today and I walked and I did this, and she just wants to talk about her life. So I always send her encouraging words back. And I don't know, I got a feeling that she's probably a very lonely person, just some of her stuff. So I always send her a lot of encouraging words and try to pump her up. So whenever she says, like the other day, she said, I did 3 days walking in a row. So it's fantastic. Good for you.
Yeah. How effective are you finding the like coaching through text messaging? Are like, and what did you expect? Has it exceeded your expectations in terms of, wow, I can actually get quite a bit done? Or is it like, I think we need to push them for more live conversations?
I like the text messaging in the fact that when they ask you a question, you're not sitting there going, let me think about this. I can sit
Okay.
and go, okay, you know what? I can take my time and answer you. I don't, and when they ask me a question, if we're not together at one time, they ask me a question, there's an automatic response through Simplex that I can get back to them within 24 hours. So some of the tough questions, and I have done in chat through their dietitian of your client is asking me this question, how would you like me to answer them? And the dietitian will give you the answer, which is nice because then when I put in the answer, you know, it's coming from the dietitian, not me. So there is, that is really nice. You're not on, you know, it doesn't put you on the spot where I got to come up with this answer right away.
Yeah. Well, you know, what a great example of how the two professionals work together. And this
Right,
is something that I made very clear to Simplex in the beginning, that our health coaches are professionals. They're not admins, you
right.
know. They might be early in their career, but they're professionals and they should be viewed as such. And I'm glad, and I love the fact that you're like, okay, this really isn't my wheelhouse right now, but you know, and this one particular dietitian, maybe not all that privy to everything that they've discussed. How should I answer that? And the fact that they're there to support you rather than, oh, go ask your dietitian, you can continue to be that source of support and know that the answer you're giving them is kind of what they need in the moment. So that's really cool. I've got a couple of, hold on, before I ask you my other question. So Natalie's saying, currently I'm supporting gestational diabetes patients. I've shadowed several dietitians on sessions with patients, and they've introduced me as their health coach for any support needed. I'm also supporting with reporting. That's the other thing too, because they do have this clinical side and they need to collect data.
Yes.
And I think it's helpful for health coaches to understand the importance of that kind of stuff. I'm learning that more and more in my own health coaching career. I never really did before because I was like, it's all about empowerment and motivational interviewing. And it is,
Yes.
but sometimes data motivates people. And we're finding this out with the continuous glucose monitor that they're starting to incorporate, which is awesome. And then Natalie's saying, I'll be rotating in January to the business development department with Carrie. That's nice It is that we get to learn all aspects of Simplex. Absolutely. Thank you for piping up there, Natalie. That's awesome. Judith is asking, how long will the internship be? So do you mind saying which track you signed up for? Because you've got some options, right?
Yeah, you do. And I think it was like, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe the shortest one was like 4 months. But I'm doing 12. I do 12 months because I wanted to do everything and I didn't want to. They give you a schedule of, okay, this is what, you know, everything's broken down into so many months, usually quarters, I think, like every 3 months you'll change and you'll do different stuff. But I put in for the year because I didn't want to feel rushed for anything. So I do 10 hours a week. I do 2 hours Monday to Friday. I set my own hours. Originally, I was going to do 9 from 11, which because they ask you, when can you be available? But when I do chat with clients, sometimes a client will chat with me at 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So I kind of let the clients dictate when they want me, as opposed to me trying to stay on certain hours. But they would like you to do like 8 or 10 hours a week, which really is nothing. I do 2 hours, maybe 2 hours, but I want to do the full year because I want to get the whole aspect of everything. I want to learn as much as I can about the business.
Yeah. Well, and that's, so look, it's funny because I've talked to Mary and I've talked to a couple people that are learning all aspects of this too. And I think sometimes it's eye-opening when you're like, wow, okay, this can be complicated, but it's also like, okay, so this is whether I'm starting my own little just me kind of shop or whether it's a company like Simplex, all companies that have to deal with marketing and have to deal with reporting and all this other stuff have the same struggles. And I think being able to understand that you can put a process to that and figure out how this might apply to you. So, because the other side to this is if there are some people that are interested in the internship, not necessarily because they want a job at the end. A lot of people do. Some just kind of want to be in it and gain confidence. so that once they're done with the internship, now they've got a clearer picture as to what they want to be doing.
Yes, yes. And right now I'm doing a thing with Penn, which is an insurance company, and it's all about glucose. So they're doing a study, and I think I have six people in that study where we're really trying to monitor their blood sugar every day to find out where they are, what's working, what's not working. The great thing is the dietitians are all super friendly. Nobody comes off that, I'm a dietitian and you're only a health coach, or they don't treat you like that at all. They treat you completely as an equal. When I do the shadowing, the dietitian always says, this person will be your health coach. And then they'll say to me, send them your information, which I do after the meeting, that if you have any questions, you can ask your health coach. You don't need to come to me. So they're really friendly and open. It's really in a very comfortable environment.
Thank you for saying that, because I have seen other organizations that don't treat their health coaches the same way. That they're really more admins, or they're assistants of some kind, or they're playing some other role other than health coach, and that they almost view it as a way to bring in somebody at a lower price, basically, rather than, and look, there might be an argument for that, but that's not the way I think Simplex views this. To your point, they trust where you came from, right? Primal Health Coach Institute. They understand the depth of what you've learned, and that you play a different role than they do. That has been my experience too. I have not at all had any feeling at all that the dietitians are at all thinking like, what are they doing? If anything, they're grateful for the help. I don't know about you, but that's what I've noticed. Like, thank God, because they're overwhelmed.
Yes. Yeah. And that, it's funny because I see a lot of stuff with the dietitians telling people, oh, if you're going to have a salad, buy the Primal salad dressings, buy Primal products. They're better than this. And so that's kind of funny. But I get stuff from the dietitians a lot. Can you follow up with this client on these meal plans because they have all kinds of meal plans in the Simplex app.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff you can send to people. So I've had dietitians, so I've sent the client these menu plans. Can you follow up with this client on these menu plans? So yeah, they're not asking you to, they're not looking at you as you're below them. They're not. They're really looking at you as an equal.
Yeah,
which is
awesome.
Really friendly people.
Yeah, Natalie's saying, the team at Simplex is amazing, so welcoming. They value us as health coaches for sure, and they are very much aligned with what we learned at Primal. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little interesting backstory in terms of how this even came about. And I might have mentioned this already, but I met the CEO at the gym randomly, right? I was coaching a CrossFit class, and he and his family come in almost every day. And a little bit about David. David started this company because he was at a relatively young age showing up as what the doctor thought was insulin resistance, super high blood glucose. And the doctor was going to put him on insulin basically. And he was like, no. And so he finally went to go see a practitioner other than his MD, more like a chiropractor, natural functional medicine guy, who was like, I can help you. You just need to be willing to make some changes. And he just said, talk to me, and went down the rabbit hole like all of us have, right? Went down this like, oh my gosh, there's so much that I have. I had no idea.
No idea. That's right.
And so that's how this kind of how he started his business. He just felt that what conventional medicine was providing to people like him, not even suboptimal, like just bad. And he set out to kind of change that. And that's how he started Simplex. And I happened to meet him at the gym. And this is when I explained to him that I asked him, I said, do you use health coaches? And he's like, yeah, mostly on the wellness side though, back then. Wellness is like their corporate wellness and that kind of stuff. But so I said, are you familiar with Mark Sisson? And he's like, oh my God, I read his book. He saved my life, and we use Primal products all the time. And, we were joking around a little bit about the dietitian that's at the gym that we go to. She's a very traditional CrossFit diet, like at least she's on the protein bandwagon, which is great, but it's still kind of low fat protein, lots of carbs to fuel your workout, veg, whole foods and all of that, but very macros driven. And he was like, this is before he, knew that I was with Mark, and I said I was a health coach, and he was just skeptical, and I about kind of how I coach people, and I'm like, not like that. No. So that's when he and I got to talking, and it's how can we bridge these two companies and sort of leverage each other. So that's kind of how that started. And I don't know if you had the chance to see David or meet with him or.
No, I haven't. I see a lot of messages he puts obviously in the chats in Simplex. So I've read a lot of his messages, but I've never personally met him. No. Yeah. But it's funny how you said they've been with some dietitians, because some of the messages I've got have been, can you help with this client? And be forewarned, they are difficult. Okay, I'll do that. I sent this one lady some recipes, and she had come back like, I can't eat that, it's got bacon in it, I can't eat fat. And I thought, wow, she was just like, my LDL levels are too high and I can't eat all that, so I got a low fat diet. I thought, okay, well, whatever. So I had sent back to the dietitian. Yep, you're right. this one's gonna be a while, I guess.
Yeah, but that's where your skills can shine, David, right? Your sense of humor, your understanding of just knowing where this person is coming from. This is the benefit that health coaches have that I think sometimes, and I'm not bashing dietitians, I just think the clinical side to a certain degree struggles, is with the quote unquote non-compliant patient versus health coaches. It's like, it's not about compliance. It's about motivation.
Yes.
Right? It's about tagging back to what can they do? All right, well, I can't do that. What can you do? And these are the things you learn in the Master Coach program, right? It's just our mindsets are completely different. And Michael Brinster is asking a question here. And you and I'm going to answer it, but you and I can kind of go off on this. Is Simplex employing health coaches in paid positions? It's his question. And they have some on the wellness side, working mostly delivering corporate wellness programs. So that's happening, but the goal here, the fact of the matter is they're in a position where it's like a cart and the horse kind of thing. They're continuing to grow their partnerships. They've got a lot of new partnerships coming online for 2024. They're going to need more health coaches. They will likely be employing health coaches out of their internship first, because they're well-versed. They know how the sausage is made now at Simplex, but that's the goal. David's goal is to integrate health coaches in their clinical vertical, in their corporate wellness vertical, and this new sort of realm for them, which is direct to consumer. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So right now it's internships, but yes, Michael, the goal is at some point next year to start actually hiring health coaches. So that, I don't want to type that answer. I'm just saying I answered it live. Katie, is there a defined path after the unpaid commitment is fulfilled? That's what we're figuring out now. So remember when I said I'm going to be taking a more active role there? That's part of it, right? Sort of acting like the union boss. Right? Like, this is where health coaches need to be. This is our skill set. This is how I recommend that you use health coaches, understanding their corporate structure, because I do kind of have that background. I'm a little bit of a unicorn. I have this strong corporate background, a strong sales background, strong health coaching background. I've been doing it forever. So there's no defined path yet, because we got to see where the positions are going to open up first, Katie. Is it mostly going to be in that corporate side, and what they're looking for is health coaches to deliver like lunch and learns and things of that nature? Is it going to be seeing about putting health coaches in some of their, because the wellness side, they do a lot of fitness. I don't know if you know this, David, but the wellness side is about, it's more like they do fitness locations, physical locations, but a health coach can come in and do stuff there on a remote basis. So that may come up first, but there's so much opportunity on the clinical side now. What I would love to see them continue to grow, and what they're focused on, is this out-of-pocket programs. And they're completely, we were talking about this before we hit record, David, they're completely stumped as to how this is going to work, because their only real knowledge is their only real experience is when a corporate employer is paying for it or insurance is paying for it. So they're still in this mindset of who's going to pay us out of pocket. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know what you're talking about, because every single one of my clients has paid me out of pocket. These people are there. And so that's what we're hoping this partnership between Primal and Simplex allows to blossom, is this is how you go forward and do this.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because there is a client that I was shadowing for a while, and I believe it was very early September. Her insurance only paid for four or six visits to the dietitian, and the September was her sixth visit. So the dietitian was like, well, what are we going to do? And the client was, well, it's my last one that the insurance covers. And the dietitian was, okay, that's fine. We can book you into January. There was no, hey, you know what, for whatever, 35, 40, 50, whatever it is, we can keep you going until your insurance kicks back in. It was just, okay, well, see you in January then. So yeah, they really need somebody to say, let's put together a package where for $300 or $200, whatever, you can buy 6 appointments with this dietitian and get them through. Because January now, when January kicks in, is this person going to come back? Because they've gone for so long. So if we can, if you can keep them motivated for that 4 months until January kicks back, then you're going to keep them as a client. Chances are that person's not going to come back, but who knows?
That's a phenomenal point, and you're absolutely right. So, but again, this is what happens when you've got an organization that has kind of worked in this silo for so long, is thinking outside that box. And hey, look, this is some of the stuff we touch on here at Primal Health Coach Institute, is how to have this sales conversation and how to have a conversation with a client about giving themselves permission to invest in themselves.
Yes.
Right. And it looks, some people will say, awesome, sign me up. Others won't. And that's okay.
That's right.
Right. But we teach you this, and it's something that health coaches, if they're properly trained like Primal, can help organizations like Simplex with, is having this comfort. Because most, at least right now, insurance does not cover health coaching. So, right now, Simplex is sort of wrapping the cost of this, or they will. So this is another conversation. Right now, the interns are unpaid interns in terms of health coaches, but at some point they're going to need to pay health coaches. So the cost of that, of paying that health coach, is going to have to come from somewhere. And if all you're doing is taking insurance, then it's limited. And this is the conversation that we've been having about kind of turning the tide there.
And it's the same with the dietitian. You build a relationship with that person. Mm-hmm. So, if you're going to turn over health coaches all the time, every few months, these people get comfortable with you, and all of a sudden, okay, well, he's gone and she's in now. And some people are going to go, geez, I like that person over there, because, personalities are personalities. And sometimes you can hit it off with people. Sometimes you don't. So that'll be interesting to see where all that goes. By keeping, like I said, I'm working with about 25 clients, and I've got a good relationship with probably 15. The other 10, it's not that I have a bad relationship. It's just that it's not, it's more of a business. Like the one lady I was telling you, excuse me, was putting in a lot of her personal stuff. So I was telling her, we went out to, excuse me, we went to Tombstone yesterday, my wife. So I had told her that, oh yeah, we were at Tombstone. So we've kind of built a relationship, not just as a coach, but as a personal relationship as well, Yeah. So if they all of a sudden said to her, he's gone and we're bringing in somebody else, she might be like, no, I want to deal with that guy. I've been dealing with that guy. So, that could be an important factor down the road as well.
100%. And this is something that, as health coaches jumping into this internship and earning your spot here as a paid individual, any sort of insight and thoughts that you can provide all goes forward in terms of your value there to Simplex and why they should hire you. And look, I think it's a phenomenal practice to get into anyway, whether it's employment at Simplex or employment at another organization, or whether it's starting your own business. Gerald said, I'd like to learn more. Great. You can send me an email, Gerald, but there's been several emails that have gone out with the link to fill out the initial application with us. As I said, I'm prioritizing people that already have all 3 courses first. I'm sending those over to Simplex. And if you haven't, it's not that you can't apply. It's like we might just move you to another cohort. And there's a link that you fill out that is Simplex's, and then they will reach out to you for an interview. Wendy's asking if you can apply if you're not in the US. I think it depends on your country. So some countries, they all have different labor laws and where an internship would fall and if they're allowed to do something like that. So I think it depends on where you are, Wendy, and I'm not up to speed on those laws. Simplex would have to kind of take a look at it. Anastasia, how would we apply for the internship, or does Simplex only do selecting from the cohort? So the first step is to apply with us. We're going to send them those that already have all 3 or 2 of the 3 or whatever. We're going to length people that have our, that kind of stuff. We're going to send them an initial pool of people to interview. And like this, with this first cohort, we had to send them a couple rounds of people because maybe someone didn't have the right flexibility or there was something else. So that's where that goes. And then, after you interview with them, they'll make you an offer. If the timing works out, it's a good fit. All of that. So, go ahead.
When somebody had mentioned, other countries, I don't know what countries particularly she's talking about, but I'm a Canadian, so they know I'm from Canada. Right now, I'm in Tucson. I'm in Arizona because I try to snowbird here as much as I can to get out. I know, Gerald, I seen somebody was from Calgary. I lived in Calgary for years. I had to get out of there. Too cold.
That's where Aaron is.
Canada, you're laughing, but I don't know about Europe or anything.
Yeah, so Christine is asking, our personal experiences could help Simplex build out that business model for continued services with health coach with their guidance. You're absolutely right, Christine. 100%. Gerald, could you list the 3 courses required again? It's the main course, Primal Health Coach certification program, human intestinal microbiome, and health coaching in a medical practice. Okay, because the clinical side is super important to them, big driver of their revenue. And the health coaching of the human intestinal microbiome is an area that they're diving far deeper into. I don't know if you joined them on any of that at all, David, but those are the 3 priorities.
Not too much, but I've heard the dietitians talk about it. So if you take the course through Primal, which I did, at least you know what they're talking about. If I hadn't have done that course, I would have been clueless of what they were talking about. So you learn quite a bit about the microbiome. So when your dietitian is talking, you go, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. They don't expect you to be a gut microbiome expert,
right.
But going through that course, you're not going to be like, wait, what? You're going to know what they're talking about. And so, I mean, they pull a lot of labs. One of the things that I know somebody else I was talking to, and I know just through talking with them that I'm learning more about is how they use lab work. What certain lab values actually mean, what is it really measuring, and understanding the importance of these labs, like within the context of the person. That's some stuff that's really interesting to learn too. So you've got so this is interesting. You've got 25 clients, almost all through text message. You're actually building relationships.
Right.
Via text message, which I think is fascinating. I love that. And when I was doing the corporate wellness programs just here with Primal, and I was just using Primal Pro, my live sessions were all just sort of group webinars. And there were people that piped up there, but you're right. Really, the relationship was built when they messaged me with questions. None of them were paying for one-on-one coaching sessions.
Yeah, exactly. I really, at first it was hard to get used to because I'm like, oh, I don't know how to say this on a text message, but you get that. But again, like I said before, the nice thing is you can actually think about your answer and you just have to say the first thing that comes to your mind. So that's nice. And you'll get questions from everything, from the microbiome, how much exercise should I do? I had they got a young guy, he's young, I think he's 18. His is more trying to gain weight because I believe he's 6'2" and 130 pounds.
Wow.
Oh, I mean, this guy is really thin. So the dietitian's trying to help him with work. I'm trying to help him with workouts. He's always texting me like, what workout can I do at home? Because he doesn't want to go to a gym. I guess he feels a little self-conscious. So I keep sending him, excuse me, I'm kind of getting a cold here. It's
Something's going around.
a cold.
Yeah.
So I send him workouts, cardio workouts, dumbbell workouts that he can do at home. So it's not really a health coach issue as in nutrition. It's more how to build your cardio, how to put on some muscle. And he's trying to, he wants to bulk up, obviously 130 and 6'2" is pretty thin
Wow.
for a guy.
Yeah. Like I'm 125 and I'm a 5'2" female. So he must be really skinny.
Yes, must be really skinny.
Oh my gosh, the poor kid. And it's interesting that you say that too. I don't know about you, and I don't know how much this has come through, but a lot of times around the insulin resistant spectrum and where I've been trying to help Simplex and some of their dietitians from my limited role so far has been in like, the biggest problem with a handful of their patients, it's stress.
Yeah, oh, big time. Yes.
Stress is the biggest one, right? So I'm spending my time with these, like, tell me what's stressing you out, right? And then they'll rattle off. Prime example, one woman who's like, I am in the car all stinking day. She's got so many children. She spends her time taking them to school, picking them up from school, running them here, taking this one to the doctor. She's like, I live in the car. And the idea of having to like prepare and meal prep and all this other stuff she's like, so I end up at Chick-fil-A. I end up at Dunkin' Donuts. And so not only in her mind, she's like, I'm eating like garbage. And then that's continuing to stress me out.
Right.
Right.
Yes. There's a
so
client.
instead of being like, well, you got to find time to meal prep. I'm like, all right, do you know the Chick-fil-A menu by heart? Oh yeah. All right, let's lay it on me. What's on there? Let's find your best meal. Let's start there. And it's just the relief in her voice. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to kind of focus on better.
That's right.
Relieved a little bit of stress for her. I don't know if you've got a story to share about an example like that, but that's what I'm finding a lot of times. And the dietitians, because that's just not what they're trained for. They know stress is a problem. They don't know how to have a conversation with their client on how to actively look to reduce that stress.
And a lot of it is, like you said, with the kids are bad. Not bad, I don't mean that, but I was shadowing a dietitian and she was talking to this lady she was pretty big because it was on Zoom. Of course, they do Zoom, and I just kind of turn off my camera and sound and I just watch. But this lady she was pretty large, and she had two girls that probably 12 and 15-ish, somewhere in there. So the dietitian's talking to her about meals to prep at home. Well, these kids were in the background and they were having none of it. No, that's gross. We don't want to eat that. And then the one little girl's, we want pizza. We want pizza. And I'm like, oh my God, how are you going to deal with this person? And of course the mom's like, can you please be quiet while I'm on Zoom? No, no. If they could, they weren't. They just kept on. Every time the dietitian would say, well, why don't you try something? No, we hate that. That's disgusting. Oh my God. I felt sorry for the dietitian because every time she said something, the kids were poo-pooing all over that, man. No way.
Yeah. But you know what, this is real life. And I think sometimes when that's the only tool, at least through their like formal training, is around writing meal plans, and no one ever taught them how to handle a situation like that. I mean, I'm in the back, you're like, this is going to be a doozy, but as a health coach, you're like, all right, bring it on. It's a challenge. Yeah. We're going to figure this out, and look, I went through that. Any one of us that are on this call that made this change with kids, oh my gosh, my older two were like, I tried to make my own sort of chicken nuggets out of Coke. I fried them in coconut oil and I used almond flour. And the first time I made them, my two older kids were like, I'm not having it. But then they eventually got used to it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm the grown-up in this relationship. I'm the one that has the wallet and I do the grocery shopping. If you don't like it, tough. Now, I did makes it so this is a conversation I would have had with this woman in terms of, look, negotiate with your kids. Let them feel like they have some power, but you've got to have a hard line in the sand of there are certain foods that are just no.
Yes.
Right. And other foods that you might be like, all right, but in a limited amount. Okay.
Right.
And other foods that are like, if you like these, my kids loved pickles. Oh my God. I had like 5 jars of pickles every week because I'm like, you can eat as many of those as you want to. But the Oreos I'll buy maybe 3 times a year.
Yes, that's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
and when it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
By the way, they don't last 3 months. They will go bad. So, like you kind of through that, your kids learn how to, I don't know, just prioritize. Okay, Katie's got a question here. Another question. Can all of the hours worked go towards the requirement for the board exam, or do only the patient discussion hours count? So, Katie, I assume you refer, so the board exam, what they're looking for is coaching hours. Okay, so I don't think the hours in the internship that are like about business development or marketing I don't think those would count. It's coaching. And again, it's not hours, it's sessions.
Mhm.
You've got 25 clients right now that you're messaging back and forth. And I do believe that there's a way that you can take that relationship right there. Even if you counted the entire relationship as one, that's 25 sessions.
Yes.
Right there, you're halfway there. I would also, here's the thing, and something that I'm going to bring up with them is in terms of this, for those of you that do plan to sit for the board, that they prioritize these coaching sessions for you. Make sure you're getting them in, having you be able to participate somehow in a live session, that sort of thing. So absolutely. Let's see. Gerald, as I graduated from PHCI yesterday, congratulations. Does that mean I would have 2 courses to take? Yes. Okay. You don't have to take them right now, but in order to be moved forward, if there's other people on the list raising their hand saying, I want in this internship, we're going to prioritize those people first. If there aren't enough people on the list that have all 3 of those already, then the rest is going to come down to how you answered all the other questions on our initial application. But what I would, look, I personally think these 2 courses, if you plan to go get a job, particularly in like a functional medicine space, or if you want to be able to collaborate in a medical practice, any of those things, I think these 2 courses are really valuable. And I'll let you speak to that on your own, David. And Gerald is saying, sounds like he has a light frame. Oh, the young
Okay.
man. Yeah, I think you're probably right there too. But I mean, look, when we owned our gym, we had a couple people like that. It was not as common as the people looking to lose weight, but we did have a few younger men that were looking to sort of add. And I'm like, you got to eat. You got to eat a lot of protein, and you got to lift a lot of heavy weights. And but the thing I cautioned them about was overeating a lot of just extra calories and getting into bad habits, because chances are these young men at some point when they turn 45 might be a totally different situation.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
As hormones change and testosterone comes down and cortisol goes up, and then all of a sudden they've got the belly and they're trying to work that off, and they're insulin resistant or skinny fat, as people had called it. So anyway, what was your experience just in the other 2 courses real quick before I let you go? Anything in particular that you're like, well, you already spoke to the human intestinal microbiome. Like, what?
Found that one to be extremely invaluable because the terminology, even just when the dietitians are talking, the terminology alone, if you don't know it, you're going to be, you're lost on what they're talking about. I haven't really done too much with the office stuff because I haven't done any of the office stuff yet, but I'm assuming, that's really going to be handy when I start to do that. But you also have to deal with a lot of this, and I don't know if everybody's seen this, but Harvard came out by saying, red meat causes type 2 diabetes. It's like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Did you see?
Why are you doing this?
And a bunch of people came out with like, here are the 12 things that are wrong with this study. But anyway, go ahead.
But you will get clients that ask, they go, hey, I've heard this. Oh my God. Now you have to start to explain with them that, no, don't worry. How does meat that does not have any glucose or sugar in it spike your blood sugar? How does that work? I'm not sure how that works. Maybe it's something to do with the the bun, the fries, and the chocolate shake. Maybe that's the problem.
Right.
But
I think Dr. Willett's argument is that there's something inflammatory in red meat that disrupts, because that was my question, like, what is his proposed mechanism of action? I don't see it, but and Rob Wolf was speaking to it, but trying to think of who it was. It might have been, what the heck is her name? She's a doctor from the UK. She went off on like 12 things that just completely negated first of all, lasagna was counted as red meat.
Yes.
Lasagna counted in the red meat category.
Lasagna and deli sandwiches.
What? So no, I mean, so that's right. And by the way, none of this is new research. They just took a look at existing food frequency questionnaire studies that are just sort of ongoing. And they're just slicing and dicing the data again and coming out with this kind of stuff. Oh, can we prove red meat is, first it was heart disease, then it was strokes, now the new one's type 2 diabetes. So like it's not new information. They're just cutting it up a different way and trying to blame it on everything else.
That's right.
It might be lectins from the grains animals consume, yeah, who knows, Gerald? I mean, honestly, they're grasping at straws here, right? But I get your point. If they're trying to claim that eating CAFO meat is inflammatory because the fat in the animal ate all these grains, and that's this like 6 degrees of separation, possibly. I don't think that was it. I have to go back and look at it. Rob Wolf did write about it, or maybe I heard it on he did a podcast with Diana Rogers. It's her last episode that she was publicizing. He was her last guest, and they were talking about it. So if you guys get the chance to listen to his podcast, they address it in there. That would be a good one for you to listen to. And look, this so here's what's interesting. The health coaching in a medical practice. I think the biggest thing you'll get out of that in working with Simplex is a strong understanding really of what the biggest challenges are in the clinical space. Simplex is different than most because they're not an in-person, hey, I'm going to spend 8 minutes with my doctor kind of a structure. They're not, but they still are limited by many things. One you already mentioned, what insurance is willing to pay for.
Yes.
Right. They're still limited by the fact that the kind of patient they're working with, and thus by default, health coaches joining here, the kind of patient you're going to be working with is a patient that's used to, well, my insurance is saying X, Y, and Z. So I think that that health coaching in a medical practice, in their view, allows health coaches to kind of understand what they're dealing with and understand the language that they speak, the clinical language they speak, and how they think through patients, and sort of what that's super helpful to your point, like just understanding where they're coming from. Right. I don't know if you have any other takeaways along that.
No, I do get asked that question a lot, though. When I send my information, I introduce myself. I tell them I'm a health coach here at Simplex Health to help with meal planning ideas, just depending on the client and what I read in their bio. So I get the client, I can go into their file and I see why they're there. So I can tell them, okay, you know what, I can help you with this, I can help you with that. A lot of times the first question I get asked is, how much do you cost? So when you tell them you're included, oh my goodness. Now, it's like, how much do you cost? And maybe I have one problem. Well, I'm free and I'm included. Perfect. Here's 4 paragraphs of problems.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is something that we're going to be sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Consulting with them on kind of how to change some of this language and the way to approach this kind of stuff and how they're different. Amanda's asking, what if you already work in a healthcare practice as a practitioner? Do you still need to take the coaching in a medical practice? So what I would do, Amanda, is when you fill out our application, indicate that in the notes as I'm looking through other applicants and we're trying to prioritize who we're going to send over there first. And guys, look, if you don't make it through this next cohort, look, the goal is to continue this. Like 2 or 3 times a year, we're bringing more people in. And then again, as Simplex grows and their use of health coaches grows and the revenue grows, they hire more and more and more. So just apply with us. What I think we're really looking for is, as we make our way through this, Are you willing to purchase the other 2 programs if you have to? Okay, and if that's the case, then fantastic. If you're a great fit, we'll send you there. Hopefully that answered your question, Amanda. But I do think we had that one instance where I think it was Mary. She said that she would be willing to purchase the course if she needed to. And then she had a conversation with them and has a very, very long, deep background in healthcare. And so they just wanted her to take the human microbiome and they bypassed the other one. So that happened. Judith, when the patients get healthier through Simplex support, does their insurance premiums go down? I'm a graduate of PHCI. I'm already a health coach, and I'm very much interested in doing the internship. Look, we've got people that are independent health coaches right now that are doing the internship just to get more experience and understanding the other side of this. So I think it's absolutely worth it. And that's a great question. It's one of the goals there, especially on the corporate wellness side. If we can show their health outcomes improve, then the premium to the corporation actually goes down as well. So if the corporation's overall insurance costs come down, then the premiums come down for participants. I know that's true. I don't know about, I think that might depend on the actual benefit company.
It's the same with the course that I was telling you that with Penn. I believe it's Penn State Insurance. This is just a small group to see how much we can bring down their glucose. If we can bring this down in this study, I think that Simplex is going to get a lot more business from these people. Right now, this is just a pilot project to see if what Simplex is doing, and it brings down their glucose. Yeah, this could explode.
Yeah, I mean, are they using CGMs for Penn? Is that what they're using?
I don't know if they are or not. I'm not sure. I hope so, because you're pricking your finger 4 or 5 times a day. That starts to hurt.
Yeah. Well, so I'm consulting with them on this beta program, the CGM beta program, and one of the things we're finding is the CGM alone acts as a behavior modification tool.
Oh, absolutely.
Alone, right? And so what we're finding is folks that come in, it's a 12-week approach. So they get a CGM for 3 months, they do baseline labs, and at the end they pull another, and literally every single person has improved in some way, shape, or form. And some of them are so busy, like I'm trying to track their butts down, or whoever's working with them, and be like, it's time for your next session. And they're so busy, but they're getting the education. They have the ability to text message, and they've got this data from their CGM. And they're like, oh my gosh, Laura, I ate a banana and look what happened to my glucose. Or another person was like, I had a conversation with this person over rice, and oh my gosh, yes. So it's bananas to use that term, but they're able to learn about themselves and use that as a behavior modification tool about what a food that they once thought was really healthy might not actually be healthy for them. And then they write in and they talk to their dietitian or they talk to their health coach about what else can I eat besides bananas. Yes. And you can have another conversation about, I don't know, blueberries or whatever the case may be. But yeah, so okay, it's 6 o'clock. I want to be respectful of your time. If you're interested in applying for the internship, please check your email. We've sent it out a couple of times, and I think I also included it in the Facebook group, in the graduates group. If you're a student and you didn't see that, you might still have it via email. If you're still a student, you're not going to qualify for this cohort. Okay, you really maybe you will, but we're going to prioritize graduates. Okay, unless you've bought like the all access pass and you have all 3 under your belt. There's all sorts of things that are going into this. So just apply, because what's happening is even after the end of that cohort, for this one that's coming up, I'm going through who's already in there too. And if somebody applied a while ago, with the last cohort, they didn't get it this time around, but they've bought the other courses or they've been out longer or what have you. I'm prioritizing those people too. So just go ahead and apply with us. We are then going to send a group of you to Simplex. They'll do the interview. They're going to pick 3 people to move forward with. And then the hope is, again, for 2024, they can get back to 5 people, but they don't want to sacrifice David's experience and Natalie's experience and Patrick's and Mary and the people that are already in there. And because this is the first cohort, they just want to make sure they treat you guys really well.
Perfect.
Okay, so any parting words?
I would say, yeah, exactly what you said. Put your name in. The experience you're going to get is invaluable. And they're a great group of people. Um, they make you feel really comfortable. They treat you as an equal. And you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot because some of the clients are going to ask you questions and you're like, wow, where did that come from? I'm a health coach, not an aerospace engineer. Why are you asking that?
Well, and a lot of them don't know the difference. They don't know the difference between you as a health coach and a dietitian, and they're going to ask you a bunch of questions. You're like, yeah, that's not what I don't talk about illness. I talk about wellness. What question,
That's right.
So they don't know. And
Oh, they do.
yeah.
I get a
So
lot of questions of what vitamins should I take? Well, that's best left up to your dietitian.
yeah,
You gotta tell people.
look, and we'll get that question too. But what I'll often say too, when some around vitamins and things of that nature, is I spend my time helping them understand what that vitamin does.
Right.
Right? Why are you asking? What do you want this vitamin or supplement to do for you? In some cases, that's not the answer. As always, they're looking for a shortcut, right, David? They're just
Yes.
like, so it's having a conversation and an educational opportunity to help them understand the role that any particular supplement or vitamin or whatever helps. And what I would do if you're early in this is say, hey, they were asking, message back and forth with the dietitian. Hey, they're asking about this. Here was going to be my reply. What do you think? Or here's what I told, just so that you and the dietitian are in communication and they appreciate it.
And that is so true, because it's nice when they ask you a question. I pass it on to the dietitian that this is what they're asking. And the dietitian will tell me, okay, this is the answer. I tell the client, okay, this is the answer. And I know there's not going to be a problem. I did have one lady, only one. She had said I was giving her some bad advice. And I thought, and I kind of read it. And Alexandra, who she went, because they can read all the chat messages. So she went back, she read them all, and she says, you have done nothing wrong. I don't see where she's saying you're giving her bad advice, but don't worry about it. We'll bounce her off to somebody else. So I thought, okay, good. So at least they went over everything I said and said everything I said was correct. I did nothing wrong. Obviously, this person has, I don't know, a problem with something.
Yeah, and it looks, if you're telling them something that they already have this predisposed bias to a different answer, that happens. Right. I mean, and anybody on this call that's worked with other humans, a lot of times they come to you with a question and they already kind of have the answer. They're just looking for, I guess, confirmation. Yeah. And then when you don't give them the answer, they're looking for,
you gotta be wrong.
It's gotta be you. Yes. But anyway, thank you, David, so much for just being you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and for sharing your experience. Are you open if these guys got some questions and they're like, all right, give me the real scoop?
Absolutely. Yes. Yep.
Where can they reach you?
At nutritiontrucker@gmail.com.
There you go. nutritiontrucker@gmail.com. Perfect.
I will answer all your questions. And yeah, you'll love it. If anybody gets in, you'll love it. It's a great learning experience. And it's really nice dealing with Simplex, because if the client asks you questions that you're like, I'm not sure, you can talk to a dietitian and get the correct answer. And yeah, you'll love it. It's great.
Teamwork makes the dream work. So
yes, it does.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to let everybody go. David, thank you again. Tell Michelle I said hello. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.